What is going on, Prosperity Practice? I wanted to pull over here for a second and do this one. This one comes to you from The Way of Creativity in Business, which is a book that was written in let me double check on this, 1988? Copyright 1986. Gosh, guys, 1986. If anyone's in their, early mid-40s, 1986 was a hell of a time. There were Rad was I think one of the movies that was on in the movies. Skateboards were becoming a thing. Transformers, Voltron. These are all things that I remember very clearly. Tender age of 10. That's so do the math. And I was out there in the Russian River, Guerneville, California, just north of San Francisco. And if you're not familiar with the Russian River, then you probably don't drink wine. Lots of really good wine comes from that area. That being said, this book, again, it's been a really interesting book for me to read. It may be an interesting book for you to read as well, while it certainly talks about creativity in business. It comes very, very much by way of lots of, I think, like Hinduism, Buddhism, yogiism stuff in there, and it's very. So I thought that was very interesting to find that in this book. I had no idea what to expect. I found this book by way of Rao Sivu Kumar. I think I'm saying his name wrong, but if you in the book called "Are You Ready to Succeed?" he has a course that is for creativity and personal mastery. That you have to read these books before you can before you can take his course. It's you have to read these books, and I think that it's really cool because I'm just really enjoying the content. And one of the things I'm going to go over with you today is the idea in this book, chapter 5, says to ask dumb questions. To ask dumb questions. And it says here that the quality of your creativity is determined by the quality of your questions. I have a ex-coworker of mine named Joe who would always say, it's not necessarily, that we don't have answers or anything like that, but we need to ask better questions. If you ask better questions, you'll get better answers. And if you have children, you know that they ask lots of questions. And one of the areas in here that he mentioned here was we wrote down some questions a 4.5-year-old named Scott asked in less than an hour. And these are questions that kids will ask, but they're actually very kind of profound if you look back at it later. What's behind a rainbow? What color is the inside of my brain? What is inside of a rock? Bones. A spider. Does the sky have an end to it? If it doesn't, how come you can see it? Why are my toes in front of my feet? So these are kind of goofy questions that most children will answer, that a lot of adults won't think to answer, and if they did think of them, then they may not even ask them. So what are some questions that you can ask yourself to just try and jolt your own creativity in either business or just creativity in of itself? Well, I endeavor to believe that these podcasts for me are something creative, that when and if I don't do them for a while, either in the form of a singular, just myself, or in the form of an interview, I get kind of anxious and antsy, and I feel like something's missing from my life. So if I'm wandering through the day and I start to feel that way, I say, what's missing? What's not going on in my life that's making me feel this way? And oftentimes I find that it's the creativity that's missing. I'm not doing something creative, or I'm not doing something active, and either one of those missing can definitely throw me off. The author says here that when we wonder what a question is an opening to creation. A question is an unsettled and an unsettling issue. A question is an invitation to creativity. A question is a beginning of adventure. A question is seductive foreplay. A question is a disguised answer. A question is a point of departure. A question wants a playmate. And, I'm just kind of flipping through this chapter because, like I said, there's some really interesting things in here that I think that if you're looking for ways to poke and prod at your own creativity, if there's something in business or art or the art of business that's kind of got you stuck somewhere, what is it that you can do? It says here, ask a dumb question and you get a smart answer. It's funny because it brings up Alan Watson here, and he goes, if he had his own school where real learning could take place, first day of class he would ask just one question, and that would be the basis of the student's next 6 years of learning. His question would be, what do you consider a good life? What do you consider a good life? Oftentimes the student would reply, a good home, and then Watts would ask them a series of questions. What is a home? What do you need to know about the architecture, construction? How many architectural styles are there? What are they? When did they occur? What are the essentials of building, of landscaping? And so on. So it's oftentimes it's the question behind the question. If anybody's ever tried the 5 whys exercise, it's very similar to that. The deeper you go, the closer you get to the quote unquote truth. There's Leo Tolstoy's 3 questions. When is the best time to heed? Who are the most esteemed people? What important pursuits are to be undertaken first? And then they also kind of come over here to Buckminster Fuller, if you're not familiar. Gosh, a lot of people talk about him from back in the day. But his question was, Fuller's key question, how may I be allowed to be of service today? It goes on, and I'm trying to find like a couple little other pieces that I really like here. Here's a list of questions that you can ask yourself throughout the day. It's called the Ruthless and Relentless Game. Carry these dozen ruthless and relentless questions, flourish them whenever you feel you are not getting to the heart of a personal or professional problem. I'll leave you with these so that you can kind of have some type of reference to questions to help, again, poke and prod at your daily issues, right? If you're stuck in a rut, as it were. It says, at this moment, what is my aim? This question is about your deepest wish, not goals for the fiscal year. Put your key life purpose on the line at that moment, not in the past or the future. If the truth be known, what's really going on? There's a certain magic in asking for the truth. You use this question to cut through the basics in any situation so that you can act with efficiency. What is the VOJ saying? The VOJ is the voice of judgment. This question reminds you to be aware and eliminate the negative effect of inner blame and criticism. This fourth one, I'll give this fourth one, and then I'll just read the rest, and you can grab the definitions from the podcast itself. Number 4, is this who I am or who I'm attempting to be? And I love that. The central contradiction of your life is between the essence and ego. This question helps silence the ego. 5, what is it that this person provokes in me? 6, what is the objective reality? 7, what is the emotional truth? 8, what pain am I avoiding? Number 9, what stubbornness am I holding on to? Number 10, is this choice the same as my real choice? Number 11, what is it that I don't understand yet? Number 12, who said that? My mother or my father? So, some really great questions in there. This comes out of, this is generated basically out of the Creativity in Business. Again, I really just kind of enjoyed this book. And we've got to think to ourselves, if we ask some dumb questions, we might get some brilliant answers. If we ask any question, start asking questions, more questions of yourself, of what's around you. They don't always have to be out loud. This book makes a recommendation also to, if you're challenged with anything, writing the questions, and I've certainly talked about this before. Write the question that's really bothering you, or deep in you, or you've been struggling with. Write the question down before you go to sleep. Last thing you think about, and write it down on a piece of paper. There may be an opportunity for your subconscious to work on that while you sleep. When you pop up, you may have an answer. I love that. What is the one question that's gonna help bring your future closest to you? Give your future some clarity. So, hopefully you've enjoyed that. If you enjoyed it, give us some likes. Let us know if you've got a dumb question that you would like to answer. Let us know if you put any of this into practice. And again, if you head on over to the podcast itself, you can copy out the 12 ruthless questions and their definitions, how they're supposed to be used for your daily use today. All right, guys, take it easy.